Let's get things set up here, guys. Just give me a minute, make sure the audio's working. Oh, yeah. Alright, I think I got the chat to be the right size, so we can start making some wood chips. Tony dancing. Alright. And away we go. We are working on 7-inch Turkish spindle shafts today. Oh, well, we'll put it this way. We're not going back. It was an okay show. It just did not have the right people for my products. Usually I want to make 10x what the entry fee was. So we paid $300 for the show, so I should have been able to turn around $3,000, and I made about half that. So, you know, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't great, which is okay. We did that show last year, and it wasn't all that great either, so, I mean, you know, we made a profit, so could have been a lot worse. There was a lot of people there that didn't even make back their $300, so. Yep, hopefully Chicago will be a much bigger show, and that's this weekend. And then next weekend, Shepherd's Harvest in Minnesota is a good show for us. So that show will make everything worthwhile. So it's worth, you know, trying to do something new. But yeah, it was all right. Yeah, you know, it's a lot has to do with the weather and, you know, how much exposure the people put into the show. And I got to sleep in my own bed, so that was okay. It was like an hour and a half drive. But the good news is I have a lot of inventory for the next shows. Currently I'm making an 8-inch shaft. Wasn't my intention, but you know I'm talking. So I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. That's alright. Here we go. Yeah, not for the whole fiber arts thing. It was marketed. It was on the news. One of the news stations in Madison, Wisconsin. It was all about, oh, look at the alpaca. Yeah, it is an alpaca show, but you kind of have to say that there's vendors too. And then they did show the vending area, but they only showed like one vendor talking about how he makes, yarn out of alpaca. So it really didn't help us out any. So it was in like a pretty big festival ground, and they were also having a dance competition. So a lot of the attendees were part of that dance competition because it was just the next building over. And the next building over, they were showing cows. There was a cow thing going on. So, yeah, it just wasn't my thing. So that was our third year. Our first year we had a single booth and the weather was horrible. So we chalked that one up to the weather. And then last year, we made more last year than we did this year. And it was still kind of mediocre. So this was like the third year. This was kind of our, our make or break year. And it just broke. It wasn't a very good... Hey, how's it going, Greg? Welcome in. It wasn't a very good show when there was other vendors packing out during the last day of the show before it closed. Yeah, usually if somebody starts packing out before the end of the show, like they were packing out at noon, it went to 3. That's basically saying I'm never coming back because it's part of the contract that you have to stay set up. So, oh, exactly. Oh, that one's got a little bit too much vibration in, so we'll cut it off. And I say this a lot. Yeah, breaking down the stand. Yeah. Putting everything in boxes, wheeling stuff out while the show's still going on. That's never a good sign. It is. It's against the contract. Yeah, if you start packing out, you're just cutting ties with the venue. But, when there's, I think on Sunday, I would have to look. I think we made about 10 transactions all Sunday. Did I sell all the dragons? I did sell dragons. I think I only sold I want to say 7 or 8. I made some little axolotls that were also articulated, and I made 4 little sheep. Those sold. But yeah, we got plenty of dragons for. We're not taking it to Chicago, but for Minnesota we have plenty. Oh, let me grab a box. I want to show you guys something. So what's on the printers now? The printers are actually taking a break. I'll probably get some more nitty natties going probably this afternoon. Yeah, we got today and tomorrow, and then setup is on Thursday, and that shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I've made these in the past, but I never, for the alpaca show, I made a bunch of alpaca where I just laser engrave on some scraps. So they look like stamps, but they don't have the stamps on the back. I can make stamps with laser engraver. But yeah, these are just like little pocket pals. They're just cute little wooden things. This one's aromatic cedar. So I think I sold like 30 of these. Little Highland cow. So yeah, just laser engraved on the top. And then when I make the pattern, I also make the offset. So I actually have a cutting line around there. So that's how I get everything even. So yeah, you just laser engrave them and then cut them out on the scroll saw. Everybody needs an axolotl reading a book, I suppose. I was kind of surprised. These are honey locust. And these turned out really well. I was surprised. Like, sometimes the walnut gets a little bit muddy. Yeah, so I made a bunch of, like, alpaca things because of the alpaca show. But yeah, the laser engraving on the honey locust, I think, really stands out. So, just little scrap that would have eventually just got burned. Yeah, I've made the little these before, like years ago. But yeah, these whole things, like the little dogs. Yeah, these are new this year. So these are kind of a test at the last show because I knew that I wasn't going to sell a ton of spindles at that show. So that's why I had all the 3D printed stuff and this stuff. To try to make up for the fact I knew I wasn't going to sell that. So yeah, it was kind of an experiment. They went over all right. I mean, I only charge a couple bucks for them. I mean... And this was the first show that well, actually, this is the second show that I had Tibetan spindles, which are a supported spindle. I had some Russians the year before. Hey, halfway. Yeah, I mean... And if you're at a festival with your kids You know, if you make them big enough where they won't fit through a toilet paper tube, then you don't have to worry about ages 3 and up on them. These are on the smaller side, so they really weren't for little kids. But if you make them just a little bit bigger than that, depending on your scrap, yeah, you can give those to, you know, little monsters. And if it keeps a kid busy for like 20 minutes, it's well worth the money. Parents would be more than happy to pay $2 to have their kids behave, even for a little while. Yeah, this show was not busy enough where I got to do quite a bit of wandering. So I've been doing shows for, you know, well, these kind of shows I've been doing for the last 13 years. And then prior to that, I was doing some little non-spinning related craft fairs. I did a few of those in the, you know, 2005 to 2010, kind of that range. Yep, so I did a lot of wandering around. I know a lot of the vendors there, you know, we kind of all run around in the same circles. So one of the vendors had one of those spinning LED hologram things. And it actually, as far as an attention getter, I think that thing did a really good job. So I'm thinking when I get to Wisconsin, which is in September, I want to have one of those because we have a different location this year. And we're against a back wall, so I don't have neighbors behind me, so I got that big wall that I can play with. So I think maybe get 1 or 2 of those. That'd be kind of cool. You know, display some video. And I'll probably steal the Japanese girl biting putting a cherry in her mouth from Blade Runner, from the original Blade Runner movie that plays in the background all the time. But I'm just a nerd like that. I do have 3D models of the spindles. So yeah, so this show, there was quite a few people who import alpaca goods from Peru. So there's a lot of Peruvian stuff there, which makes sense because it is an alpaca show. And then a lot of just the normal fiber folks selling yarn. Hey Ian, it's going well. I'm just kind of getting my bearings back. I would like to get maybe 15 or 20 of these done so I can make some of the 3D printed Destiny spindles. But as far as like restocking stuff, yeah, we're looking good right now. Hey Ryan, welcome in. If you guys are new to the stream, my name's Scott. I'm a full-time woodworker out of Wisconsin. So we're kind of in show mode now, so normally this channel I make things and share, you know, beginner scroll saw, wood turning. Eventually I'll do other things as well. But yeah, this is my day job. And I figured since I have to be working anyways, might as well live stream a little bit. You're an Oshkosh? Sweet. I used to work at Oshkosh Truck. Sure, I said that already. The displays take videos, and if you got a video of a spindle orbiting, it'd be amazing on display. Yeah, yep. And they could play multiple clips, so I could have just like a chain of things running. Where are you? I'm in North Fond du Lac. I'm in the metropolis of North Fond du Lac, in the prestigious Main Street, Wisconsin Avenue. Yeah, I worked at Truck for like 6 years. I got laid off in like 2012, I want to say. And then I started doing this. Yeah, have a good one. Live close to the lake. Live on the coast of the lake. Nice. Yeah, I grew up about a half mile away from Winnebago. So I've eaten my fair share of lake flies. Do I do alpacas? I do have a couple alpaca files that I make larger ones. But there's just so many llama-themed items here and alpaca-themed stuff. It was just kind of... Yeah. So on the news, King Charles III and Queen Camilla, yep, they're going to visit the White House. I saw that. Why? Why would they want to do that? So they said, hey, I know you. My brother used to hang out with you. That didn't work so well. Not for him, did it? No, Vicky's up front. Got a bunch of paperwork to do. Getting towards the end of the month, and we're trying to get a couple accounts made for the post office so we can just stop mail on an app rather than turning in paper. So that's what she was working on the last time I looked. I don't know. There's so many people boycotting coming to America. Obviously, the king's going to be able to leave, but yeah. Or Action 2 News. Which I use CBN wheels. So I have a low-speed grinder, and then I have 2 CBN wheels. So that's actually just right behind me. So I can't remember the grits off the top of my head. It should be laser engraved, yeah. So I got a 180, and then I think a 600. Yeah, 180 and a 600. So, for what I do, it works out really nice. When I bought this system, I was working out of a little garden shed outside, so I couldn't, use anything that used water or any fluids on because they would freeze. You have a grinder, a high impact compressed air grinder, like a die grinder. I used to sharpen with like sandpaper belts as well, but the CBN wheels have been nice to me. Since that wheel's never going to change size, you can use like these setup pieces. So you just set this on the wheel, and then it angle, so it's really quick angle. So you can get a 45 and a 25 real fast. I bet. I would call that pretty powerful. Yeah, you definitely just want to stick with high speed, otherwise you're going to gum up the mess. Your grandfather's nice. My grandfather was a wood carver, and I got one of his motors that he put a Jacob chuck on, and he'd be tickled pink that I'm still using it. It's been, he passed quite a long time ago. Being able to use, relatives' equipment is just, there's something about it, You're just carrying on what they were doing. He was a commercial welder. Sweet. In retrospect, I should have gotten into welding. It's paste wax. Awesome. I bet he'd be very happy you're using it too. So we are turning Turkish spindles. Let me grab one. So this is what a Turkish drop spindle looks like. So it's a shaft and then it has two arms and they're used to spin yarn. So we are making the shaft sections now and you can see it's really important that they're straight. You don't want vibration. The last thing you made was a scrap sword. Nice. For you or for somebody else? So since these shafts are so thin, I do have to support them with my hand. If I just went in and started, see, I can flex it with my hand. So it's kind of a specialty thing. Little vibration, but we should be okay. As long as it's down there. It's down there, we're good. You cut the blade from 1/4-inch sheet steel. Nice. And then did you grind an edge on it, or? So it's a thumper. I'll win it like you. But it's more fun if it's dangerous. Come on. Oh, so it's a big poker. You could use it and make kebabs with it. You'd have to use very large vegetables, though. That's what we've made so far. And then that one I accidentally made an 8-inch one, which is fine. They'll all get used. Nice. Hey, thanks. High back, is it? Yeah, I've been making these full time for this is my 13th year. So this is a Laguna Revo 1216. So this is a midi size lathe. I don't make large items, and this prevents me from making big things. So this is my sorry. I don't have a large enough lathe to do that lathe. So Can you make me a baseball bat? Oh, I can't do that. Can you make me a pool stick? Oh, I can't do. All right, halfway. Thank you much. Have fun at work. Yeah, dust collection is the main point of the dust collection isn't to really suck up the chips. It's to suck up the really, really light sawdust. Turn some bats before night. Back in the day, probably, I'm guessing, would have been in the late 90s. I made a bunch of baseball bats for one of my friend's softball teams. And they were wooden, but they were like Barney Rubble bats. So they were basically large, like huge wiffle ball bats. They were instantly banned. It was just home run derby with those things. So they used them for warm-ups and to mess around with. You designed a pirate cutlass? Sweet. I don't do a lot of bowl turning. I do mainly spindle work. Honestly, this stuff keeps me busy. Let's see if I got a spindle. So currently I make these. These are the closest things I have to bowl turning. These are spindle bowls for supported spindles. They sit in there and you spin them. So that's as close as I'm getting right now. Is the person you made? Actually, with springtime coming up, I should be since it is spring, with all the thunderstorms going on, I should be looking for some free wood that gets blown over. Oh, that's very nice that you did that. Oh, I gotcha. That makes sense. Best way in 2020, yeah. So that was a little while ago. Time flies, doesn't it? Time marches on. It's just... Isn't it weird that every 100 years there's a pandemic? A lot of things happen in cycles. Even the weather's on a huge cycle. It keeps repeating. It's just the world's way of thinning the herd a little bit. And I'm glad it was COVID rather than like the bubonic plague. I guess you just leave a prettier corpse. But I keep cats around just in case. I really feel, as far as the coronavirus goes, it was so mishandled in America. It was a lot worse than it had to be. Made a quarter-inch scale replica of the blade adjustment from the Transformers. That's neat. To be honest, I have only seen probably the first Transformers movie. There's a lot of franchises I have not watched. Optimus's Prime Sword. Nice. Yes, the leader of the Autobots. I watched the cartoon. I mean, I'm in my 50s. I had lots of Transformers. Weighed around 50 pounds, just a little one. Dang. I guess he's semi-truck size, so it makes sense. It depends on the amount of vibration. If there's just a hair, it's not going to be noticeable. I mean, technically, you know, a couple hundred years ago, they would just grab a stick and throw it in there, and it wouldn't be balanced at all. But like anything else, we're spoiled, and people expect them to be balanced. You know, they're paying money for them, so... You know, if they buy something off Temu, you know, you're not buying that for balance. You're buying that because it's cheap. So yeah, these are also tested when we assemble. So once in a while, one will sneak. But it's not very often. You know, I could say, you know, if it has a wobble in it, you know, that's gonna affect how long it's gonna spin, and you know, it's gonna change the characteristics of it. But in all reality, I think we're just spoiled, and that's fine. And just for that specific reason, there's a lot of people who make spindles that make them for a very short period of time. Because people are very picky. And all you got is your reputation. Alright, this one has some pretty... The grain starts... Instead of running this way, it starts coming over this way. The top... If we put it in this way, we should be okay. But ideally, you really want straight grain. So, when we get through our hell month here, next month, I'm going to be ordering some resin impregnated birch that we're going to be using for longer shafts. That way I can get them thinner without them, you know, breaking. So we'll be playing with that. The piece of wood I'm buying is like, I think it's 9 inches tall. I think it's 36 inches long and 1 inch thick. And I think it's like, I want to say it's like $500 for one piece. So it's going to be a very expensive experiment. So it's the stuff I'm buying is called Duralux. 20 years ago, there was, well, maybe a little less than 20 years ago, there's another manufacturer who called it Diamond Wood, but their plant burned down and they decided not to rebuild. So there's another company making it. They also make Spectrafly, which is dyed laminated birch as well, but it's not resin impregnated, so it's less expensive. That stuff is stripey, you know, they just have little, I don't know if it's 1/8 inch thick laminations, and they dye them different colors before they glue them together. They're used a lot in knife making for handles. They're also used for gun stocks. Yeah, the Scottish spindles are basically a Nostipin that you spin yarn on. So they're a peculiar spindle. I don't have any made right now. Actually got one. So with a Scottish spindle, you spin the yarn the same on the top, and you wind a center pull ball on the arm here, but there's no whirl, so these have to be heavier, because having a whirl, you know, it's a flywheel on a shaft, so it increases the time it will spin, you know. So a shaft by itself will spin for 2 seconds and stop. Not even 2 seconds, because there's nothing to propel it. So you put a whirl on it, then when you spin it, it'll spin a long time. So if you don't have a whirl, you have to have mass. You have to have weight to keep it spinning. And these, when you start putting yarn on them and start building the cop, you're building a whirl. So when you first start out, they're really wobbly and crappy. But after a few minutes and you start, they'll settle down right away. So yeah, they're kind of a goofy spindle, and there's notches on the bottom, so when you wind on, so if you've ever seen a ball winder with a hand crank, that is doing the same thing that you're winding on by hand here. So if you just wind on and go straight to the top, that ball would want to pull off. So that's why there's a notch on the bottom. So when you're done winding, you go through the bottom and up to the top, and it keeps everything from coming off. I can actually count. All right, so we got some wool here. Well, it's like anything else. In 2009, they were rediscovered, and they were like the coolest thing since sliced bread. And you need to know how to spin in order to use these. They're not, see how it's all wobbly? But I'm just kind of making the leader to get it down. So a lot of the times when I sell these, I sell them to people who collect different kinds of spindles, people who do Scottish reenactments. So they're running around with something that they can say, you know, look, it's Scottish. And if it's not Scottish, it's crap. So you have to make sure you leave yourself enough room to get back to the top. Now, I'm guessing I have probably sold, I don't know, probably 600 of these. So they do sell, but they don't sell very, you know, when I first started selling them, there was a write-up in Ply Magazine, which is a spinning magazine, about them. Because of that article and YouTube videos, there's kind of a resurgence for a while. So they're more like the fidget spinner than anything else. So I'm winding a core, and I'm going to go on the top of the core, and then on the bottom of the core, turn a little bit, go across the top, go across the bottom. So I'm adding an angle, and we'll keep repeating that. So we are making a center pull ball. So if you wind it really, really precisely, it will look like a cake from a ball winder. Just have to spin a little bit more to get to the top here. There we go. So yeah, I know there's more hand than spindle. You can take them, you can roll them on your leg. But yeah, they are definitely kind of an odd duck kind of thing. So this would actually be one of the smaller ones. They used to use them for plying, so you would already have spun yarn. You'd just be putting multiple pieces together, and then these would be really, really big to hold a whole bunch of yarn. Yeah, and the spinning's about the same. Like I said, once you start getting a bigger cop on them, they'll start settling down. So I have to go to the time for that. Yeah. So there we go. Good enough for demonstration. So you make the ball and then you just pull it off the top. It's way more fidgety than one of these. Hey, not a problem. So yeah, so we got back home on Sunday, probably about 7 o'clock. We came to work yesterday and unloaded, kind of went through our numbers. I made a bunch of little spinning bowls, but worked about a half day yesterday. Probably do about a half day today. Tomorrow we'll come in and probably go through the bins, trying to figure out what we're going to bring. And then, yeah, we're back on the road on Thursday. We'll be back again on Monday, and then we'll be back on the road on, I believe, next Thursday as well. And then after Minnesota, we are driving down to South Carolina to spread Vicky's father's ashes. So we'll be gone for a week then. And then after that, we'll get back into live streaming. I'm going to start doing more projects again. And then our next fiber show is until September. So we'll focus on the websites and getting everything set up for that. So what's nice is after we're done with this show in Minnesota, Anything that we have left over is going to go directly to the website. Yeah, this is my full-time job. This is my only income. So hopefully, it's either going to be this year or next year. Hopefully it'll be this year. I'll start making holiday things early, like June, July. And try to build up some inventory and then do like a fall market somewhere. Some craft shows. So, the channel will have somewhat of a focus to it, what we're doing. And it doesn't have to be crazy. This is my full-time income. So, if I go to a show and make a few $100s, at least we can see what sells and what doesn't sell. That might help people with decision making on their booth if they decide to sell things. And, just like anything else, things tend to ebb and flow, I assume that I'm going to be making these, until I retire. But if these frizzle out, we'll make something else. That's kind of the way it works. So there's a manufacturer who makes a lot of fiber things in California. They're Clemis and Clemis. They make a lot of drum carters. Well, they went to, they're a major manufacturer. They've got like a bunch of employees and stuff, and the whole fiber arts thing frizzled out for a while. So they went and they made skateboards and a bunch of other stuff, just to keep everybody employed. And then they came back to this when it started picking up again. And there's a lot of people who are currently 3D printing Turkish spindles that they're getting files off of, like, wherever. I'm going to say Thingiverse. And they're 3D printing shafts that break really easy. And the shafts I make actually fit on those. So people are actually just buying the shafts so they can keep their 3D printed spindle running. Which I'm totally okay with. yeah, so when we're done with the shows, we'll go through the website and kind of clean it up, try to optimize it a little bit. And a lot of people understand my place in the market, which has taken a while. When I started making spindles, they were either somebody bought toy wheels and a dowel at a craft store and threw a cup hook on the top and charged, $15 to $20 for it. Or there's people who are making spindles that they were charging $100. There wasn't really a middle ground, and that's kind of where I want to sit. So my standard spindles come in at about $25. I have ones that are exotic woods that are, in the 40s, but unless somebody orders something that's, made out of ebony, I tend not to get to the $100 range. So, everything is built to a price point. If I make something out of more exotic woods, it's going to be more expensive. If things take longer to make, they're going to be more expensive. Yeah, there's a lot of spindle makers that make them by hand. Usually the commercial ones are made by spinning wheel manufacturers. There has been kind of an onslaught of spindles that are coming in from India and China. So a lot of yarn shops, will buy, a $5 spindle, from India and then charge $40 for it. And the quality is not there, but they're cheap. Yeah, there's like big international manufacturers, that are just dumped out on big CNC machines. There's nothing wrong with that. One example is Ashford. They make spinning wheels. They make a lot of stuff. They make a lot of looms and a lot of fiber stuff. And they're out of New Zealand. Another big spinning wheel manufacturer that also makes some pretty horrible spindles would be it's not coming to me. Give me a second. I keep thinking Louette. Louette's out of Europe as well, but that's not who I'm thinking of. But they're Dutch. They're out of Poland. Oh, it's not coming to me. I could. They have a wheel called the Fantasia, and yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so there's a lot of importing of items. I used to sell a ton internationally until the whole tariff craziness happened. And my international sales have dried up. It's going to be, several years. Before things will pick up again, I'm guessing. I don't blame, I don't blame anybody because they don't want to pay all the fees and they don't want to support, the current regime. Let's see, we've been streaming for a little over an hour, and we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 done. It's not too bad. I was told many years ago by another maker that my prices are way too cheap And I should double my prices. You might only sell half as much as you sell now, but you'll make the same amount of money. You don't have to work very hard. But that's just not me. So I do some limited wholesaling. I don't do a ton of wholesaling anymore, but I kept the people I originally have. So yeah, there's some pretty big stores, some in Wisconsin, in America, some pretty big craft stores that you can go and buy my spindles at. So the reason I don't do a lot of wholesaling is because the margins. I mean, I can't give them 50% off. Because what I make is pretty much what I need to make. But yeah, let me grab it. Alright, so this is actually Milky Fiber Arts. They also sell my stuff on Etsy. This is the Woolery, which is a huge, I think they're out of Tennessee. I'm not sure. They're a big maker as well. That's also Milky. That's Milky. Woolery, Milky. Woolery. There should be webs in here somewhere. Yeah, you can tell. Now let's try. Let's look at webs. Yarn.com. I'm guessing they're going to be ordering some more soon because they are out of stock. And then, there's I deal with some people that also just do festivals as well. There's some big shows that I don't go to, but my spindles are there. I don't think that one's going to work. Yeah, it's bent pretty much in the middle. So we'll cut this in half. And then we should be able to get 2 smaller shafts out of that. I really need to order some pen kits. I haven't made pens in a while. So, probably 5 years ago, I used to live stream a lot on YouTube and Twitch. And then I would do, once a month, I would do a pen stream. They sold. What I would do was the profit I made from making the pens out of the scrap wood, the exotic scrap wood I had, I would use that to purchase the wood that I would burn in my fireplace over the winter. So, and since I did it on a live stream, you know, if I was doing something out of an acrylic pen out of a weird color or stuff, people would actually claim them while they were being made. So people were actually watching their pens being made, which I thought was pretty neat. You know, I think the big thing with the pens are, you know, I tend to make slimline pens. They're the least expensive pen kits to buy. But if you get a decent manufacturer, they're nice. But a lot of people don't like pens out in the open. They want them in a glass case where nobody can touch them. Some people are weird like that. You just can't take a handful of pens and throw them on a table. You know, I had them on a display rack, you know, but yeah, some people are like, yeah, I don't want something that people have been touching. I mean, I get it. So you almost need like a glass case to put them in. With pens, the people who make money are the people who make the pen kits. I mean, if you spend like $40 on a pen kit, without the wood, and by the time you turn it, you know, what are you going to charge for it, you know? You need to make your money. And I get it, if you sell like wooden pens at like a fancy hotel with shops attached to it, yeah, I understand that, but those aren't really the markets that I do. I have not made the quill pens. I make a lot of ballpoints. I mean, people pay good money for quills. I don't even think I have any pens that I've made. I've got one in the car. So with the chaos of the shows, I did get my duplicator plugged in, well, set up. So it's still initially set up. I have to still tweak it, but yeah, they are no longer in business. But this is a Vega duplicator. So you got this pin here, and you would put underneath here what you're duplicating, and then this pin would ride against that. So you turn the lathe on. This handle is for retracting the cutter. I've been sharpening this with a diamond hone, and it's been working fine. I have been considering replacing it with a piece of carbide. But yeah, so it just follows that template. So if I do if I'm going to make Scottish spindles again, if I'm going to make, 50 of them in a batch, I'm going to rough them out here and then put them on the other lathe to finish them up. So, yeah, it's basically just a crank. You've got a sprocket and a bicycle chain, basically. But yeah, it works. So yeah, you put it in the pin here, and then when I was making Scottish spindles, the shafts were really thin here, so I have a support piece. And then there's another piece on the back. So. I got this stand. They're coming out of China now. You can get them, in a ton of different names. This one's from Harbor Freight. And as far as stands go, I mean, they've come a long way. I don't have any, bags of cement holding it down or anything. It's very, very stable. So, yeah. watching ghost stuff. We could sneak over and see how big he was doing. Hey, Pat, how's it going? Welcome in. So we woke up, we decided to have our coffee here because the creamer was here. So we get here, and then we didn't have enough coffee here to make coffee, so I had to run home and grab coffee. But now we have coffee, and that's the important part. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if I was coming down with something or had something last week. So I haven't streamed in a while. So today we're still making we're making shafts for Turkish spindles. We've got a show this weekend in Chicago. And then the week after that we got a show in Minnesota. So these shafts here are for some 3D printed spindles that we make. So today's kind of laid back. We're probably only going to do a half day of work today, so we worked all weekend at a different show. We're not killing ourselves today. Slow and steady, exactly. And, you know, I need infinity of these, so it doesn't hurt to get a bunch made. Yeah, so I was saying before, you know, I must have been coming down with something. I'm not sure what was going on. I wasn't streaming because we're buttoning up, getting ready for the show. But yeah, my blood sugar was like super high. And it didn't matter what I did, you know, I watched my diet and exercise and... Yeah, I've been checking my blood sugar quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Oh yeah. Well, I'm just trying to, you know, keep all my fingers and my toes and my eyesight. I do have a retinopathy, So I'm keeping an eye on that. Literally. Ooh, I did get some fancy glasses. So I went to get some new safety glasses, and they're horrible. I love them. Ah, there we go. Just horrible. So yeah, the person at the optometrist was trying to help me pick out frames. I'm like, no, I need ugly frames. Why would you want ugly frames? Because I do. So I wanted frames where the side shields were not on the hinge, because I've always had issues with them sliding off. So I don't have to worry about these. And these are just so ugly. They're so cool. Nah. You start falling apart. I mean, they scream safety. Yeah, she tried talking me into progressive frames, and I'm like, no, I need lined bifocals. Why? Because they're ugly. So next week I have to order my street glasses. I've had these for a little while. So my prescription didn't change all that much, except for the bifocal part changed. So my distance vision hasn't changed. Yeah, so the show this weekend, we only have a 10 by 10 booth. Normally we do 10 by 20s, but this is a new festival, and I didn't want to, I think it was I didn't want to pay for 2 booths if it's not going to be worth it. So we're going to have a very stripped down display. And it's a corner booth. So, you know. So there's an aisle and an aisle. So we're in this corner here. So, you know, as far as setting up, you could put tables and make a U, then have like a cashier here, and then have items. But if you do that, and then there's another group of things behind and to the side here. So this area here is open. So you could do a U, but then you'd have people shopping off this corner here, not being in the booth. What's the show called? I'm not even sure. I hate to say it. It's a big, long, lengthy thing. I can tell you in a second. Oh, it's not that bad. It is called the Fiber and Fabric Craft Festival. It's in a big conference center, like right by O'Hare. And there's an overhead thing.
There is.
And it's free, right? We get a pass for it?
I don't know if it's free or not, but I asked about location and price and supposed to ship it back to us. So here's what I did was I took their map, and this is where we are in relation to.
Did they talk about? So it's in the Donald E. Steffens Convention Center in Rosemont, which is like downtown Chicago. It's, well, not really downtown. It's by O'Hare.
Yeah, it's O'Hare.
By the airport.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so the hall that we're in, Hall F, is 22,000 square feet.
Yep.
So that's huge.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, there's a crossover,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we can take product over that way. We need to find out where we have to load and unload.
Yeah, that too. Yep.
So,
but yeah.
it's their first year, so we'll see what happens.
So, and then I found the app.
Okay.
So, I think she said, the app is where we would find like the load in information.
Yeah, because that's what we need.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out yet, but yeah, I mean, so I at least have it downloaded on my phone. And I can.
Yep. Are we the only spindle makers there? I believe so.
No. There's one right next to us.
Who?
I don't remember the name, but yeah, we're in the spinning.
Well, yeah, they have a special little section for spinning and weaving.
And there's only 4 of us.
And there's only 4 of us, but yeah, I guess there's another spindle maker. So
Yeah.
can you see who that is for my curiosity? All right. So as I was saying, so we're not going to do a U shape. What we're going to do, this is a booth space. We're going to do a back table, a table on the side here, checkout, and then we'll have another table in the front here, so that there will be a walkway this way. So it's a little bit less space, but you can get more people flowing through it. If we do a U, you'd only be able to get like 2 people in the booth at a time, because it's 10 feet by 10 feet. By the time you add the tables, so 2 feet, 2 feet, so you got 8 by 8, and then you put a table here, another, so. And we're not sure on this show if we get a little wiggle room. At other events, instead of putting the table on the side there, we'll put it at an angle like this, which gives you more room this way. and it kind of helps with the flow of traffic. So, you know, when people are walking, they can come in that way. So, we'll see how it goes. So. You know, it's their first year. So it's kind of up in the air. So the first year they made the booth really reasonably priced. So I think we paid, I think it was only $300 for the booth. And they're like, oh yeah, next year it's going to be like 800 or 1,000. So. We'll see. Yeah, I can't do the U. You can't have bottlenecks. It's just, and it needs to be large enough for a wheelchair to get through as well. Yeah, so the parking is directly across the street, and then they have a skyway, a skywalk. Alright, so yeah, there's another, I don't know how much of a spindle maker there are. I'm opening up what they sell. That's great. 30 sales.
Yeah, and they do, you know, they put bowls and stuff and weaving stuff and all that. So we might be the only legitimate
yeah,
or major, not legitimate, but major maker.
Yeah, they've had 30 sales, so I don't know. I think they're more yarn.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Yeah, it looks like they're more selling dyed yarn. So their spindles might just be whatever they...
It might be a small.
They might be, yeah, toy stuff.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're the only major maker there.
I think so, yeah. It's with, you know, the wheels or the draw spindles are within their list, whereas I said, you know, we have Turkish and Conversational. That's our main
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, we should do
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, the booth is relatively inexpensive, right? It was like $300. Yeah, okay, so it's $400. So, you know, as long as we can 10x that, which shouldn't be. It's a 3-day show, so I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, you know, there's 225 or 275 vendors.
All right, there's between 225 and 275 vendors, so they've got a lot of people there. So hopefully people will show up.
Yeah, and it's a variety of, I'm assuming, fiber related, and also fabric and craft and all that stuff. It's not,
Yeah.
You know, it's not all like variety.
So it's a variety of different craft-oriented making things kind of thing. So, you know, yeah. So there's probably going to be sewing machines and sergers and, you know, big industrial quilt making equipment, I would assume. Looms and yeah. And it's we're staying in the Hilton?
Yeah, it's
Oh, I hope we don't get shot. Hilton's not known for their security.
Really?
It was a Hilton where the gunman was at.
Oh, really?
For the correspondence. Well, there's nothing to be staged, so we should be okay. Yeah, it's a big place. You know, we did a show it was Ply Away, so it was Ply Magazine, another spinning magazine. There's only 2 big spinning magazines, and it's the fancier of the 2. They had a festival in... Oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of the city. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it was in Kansas City, Missouri. Stayed in the hotel that the conference center was in. And it was nice because we never left the conference center. It was a 3-day show, and that one's not good. And they had food. You know, there's a bunch of restaurants attached to it. But the hotel was like super expensive. And they put parking on our bill, and they weren't supposed to, and they did it anyways. And they basically said, well, you can call this number and argue with them. So it was just one of those things where they just slapped an extra $100 on our bill because they could. And their parking area wasn't even open. It was the parking for the conference center. I'm not sure. Vicky does the books. I would assume you could. Yeah, it would be an expense. You know, they kind of changed all the rules about meals when you're on the road, and I think now it's a 50% write-off. It used to be 100%. Unless you buy your own food. If you go to a grocery store, you can write 100% of that off. But you can't write off client meetings anymore. as far as food goes. So you can't write off whining and dining potential customers. So I'm kind of excited. We more than likely we're going to be doing a show in California. In October. Which is in Dixon, California. So by Sacramento. So that'll be fun. I've never been to the West Coast. And we're just kind of doing it as a test. So we're not going to bring a ton of product. It's just they're going to have a table for us. So no big setup, just a bunch of spindles on a table. Just to see if it's worth doing again. It's just a very long drive from Wisconsin. So that's why we're going to fly out and see if it's worth driving. I mean, we can get away with, sending ourselves a couple boxes. So yeah, the show in Minnesota, we are camping on site. I think this might be our last year camping at the show. I do plan on camping at Wisconsin Sheep and Wool for the next few years, but yeah, for me, I need a fiber show that's just a fiber show that has like classes. So a lot of times at these shows, there's spinning classes. There's introductory to spinning, or spindle classes, and that's kind of my bread and butter. People go take a class and then come down and then buy a spindle. So yeah, if there's like a lot of fiber classes, that's a really good indication that I would do well. And yeah, doing little shows, really, I can't just set up at in my town at like a, just a market, because nobody would know what they are. It's kind of the price you pay for making a niche item. But, I think I would do good in Illinois at, like, YarnCon. I think I'd be okay there. Because a lot of times you get crocheters and knitters that kind of, want to go to the next step. But they don't want to spend, $800 or $1,000 on a spinning wheel. A little bit of vibration on that one. We're just going to cut that off. And then we should have enough to make a 6-inch shaft. I would really like to get into Rhinebeck, which is New York sheep and wool, which is in Rhinebeck. So, it's not New York City. It's, in the country, very, very nice, That's a big show. I used to, when I first started out, I used to go with Susan's Fiber Shop, so a store, and I would demonstrate and have a small table. And those crowds, before the show would open, you would look out, and it would be, a line of people, like more than 100 yards long, people as far as you could see waiting to get in. The younger generation probably doesn't know what spinning wheels and spindles are, unless they're crafty. Honestly, like the last show with the alpaca, I demonstrate. I sit there and I demonstrate. There was a lot of people who just thought what I was doing was magic. Asking a lot of questions. No, when I do that, I know I'm not going to sell anything to them, but it's all part of it. And then I always say, yeah, we've been using spindles since at least Neolithic times. So it's really nothing new. It's one of the first, simple machines. And I give a pretty heavy discount to like 4-H clubs. So I was at a show. This was many years ago in, I think it was Maryland, and this little girl came up and asked if she could try a spindle. She was maybe 10, and oh my God, she was like amazing. She was like, I know people who've spun for 20 years that didn't spin as well as she did. Oh, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it's not something we use every day. You know, and if you go to like Peru, you know, it's not like they have like spindle makers. You're gonna buy a spindle from a person who makes like wooden spoons and wooden spatulas and other utensils. You know, it's just an everyday tool there. Well, I'm glad you like it. You know, I can it can get a little repetitive. You know what I'm saying? You're doing the same thing over and over again. So, I turned down a promotion. Garvey wanted to send me a mini split, and I just don't have. I have no place to put it. If I own this building, yeah, but I don't own this building. So I had to turn down an air conditioner. I know. As far as the woodworking I do, how does that equate to an air conditioner? we're gonna go for another 15 minutes. We're gonna go till noon. Then I'm gonna have to go get something to eat. I think I'm gonna try to talk Vicky in. I have to pick up some meds at Walmart. So I'll try to talk her into picking up some salad. I've been on a chef salad kick lately. So we have to hard boil some eggs. And of course, if we're going to hard-boiled eggs, we might as hard-boil, a couple extra. And then I have to pick up some paprika, too. I usually make a couple deviled eggs, which I don't understand. If I fry one egg, I'm full. Scrambled eggs? Yeah, probably 2. An omelet? Yeah, 2 or 3. But deviled eggs? I could sit there and eat a dozen of them without even thinking about it. I couldn't eat a dozen, 6 hard-boiled eggs. I couldn't do that. So, yeah, last time. Oh. See, I'm in America. We don't do curry a whole lot. But like an egg salad sandwich, yeah. 2 or 3 eggs in a sandwich, not a big deal. I've never had a scotched egg. They look delicious. Oh, probably about 5 years ago. Probably longer than that. They can be a bit bland sometimes. It's probably closer to 10 years ago because we're still running around with Vicky's kid taking him to shows. We hard-boiled like a dozen eggs, which sounds like a great idea until you guys eat a bunch of hard-boiled eggs on a trip and you're stuck in a car. It got pretty sulfury in there. And I've never had fish fingers with clotted cream either. I guess we'll leave that one up to the doctor. Why would I want to? I don't know. Yeah, Doctor Who did that. New identity, new tastes. All right, hang on a second. There's one. Okay, who's doing the e-spinner class? It doesn't matter. So no spindle classes, but an e-spinner class.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have got all the electronics to make an e-spinner, so I can hurry up and design that in the next 2 days.
Yeah, I don't know. And I even asked, I'm like, it just doesn't seem like it's right for us. Is there going to be, spinners there? And they're like, yeah. I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm a little worried.
Well, there should be volume.
Yeah.
I would hope.
So hopefully
If they've got like over 200 vendors, there's going to be people there.
Yeah. There'll definitely be people there. So hopefully we can get.
So.
Yeah.
So I'll be wearing my kilt and my goofy cat shirts and.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. All right.
We'll be fine. If you want to, we can dye my beard. It's not very long, but. Yep. Hey, I'm going to stream for about another 10 minutes, and then can we go get some food? We could call it a day if you wanted to. And we could go to Walmart. I need to pick up my my strips. Okay. And we could get some more salad. Are you willing to do a chef salad again? I know we've been eating a lot of chef salads.
That actually sounds really good.
And pick up some paprika and do some deviled eggs too.
And then, if we call it a day tomorrow, I have to focus on the bowls and.
Yeah, tomorrow bowls, and then I got to put together all those destinies. I didn't quite get done with what I wanted to, but I don't know. But we haven't had any time off in the last how many months? I think it's time. I've never. Oh, we're talking about things I've never had. I've never eaten an eel either. I think that goes into the why would you want to get an eel? As delicious as an eel pie and mash looks, I don't think I could. Oh, I'm excited. We're getting a sushi place close to where I live, and unfortunately, it's called Sushi Tail, which is fine. But if you cover up a couple of letters, hopefully, food doesn't taste like that. It's an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet. Hopefully they have a menu because I have a hard time getting my money's worth out of... I can't eat as much as I used to. I assume it's going to be American sushi. We'll see. And some warm sake. Oh. That does sound good. Alrighty, guys. Let's do a count, see how many we made in the last 2.5 hours. Alright, we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So we got 29 done, which isn't so bad. If I really would have pushed it, we could have got the 30 out. Alright guys, I'll do another live stream. Philly cheesecake sushi. No, like the California rolls, you know. A lot of the rolls aren't technically Japanese, that they're Americanized. The Philly roll, all that stuff. Yeah. All right. I will do a live stream when we get all set up in Chicago. So that'll be probably Thursday, or maybe I'll do it on Friday before we open. So we'll see you then, guys. Have a great day. And remember to be nice to people, because it doesn't cost you anything, and this might make somebody's day. Have a great one.